Why your need to be liked is keeping you from being respected. A sermon on people pleasing, truth, and becoming grounded. Here is the question: what are you willing to trade in order to be liked? That may sound intense, but it is a real question. Because most people do not wake up in the morning and say, "Today I am going to betray myself." They do not say, "Today I am going to be dishonest so people approve of me." They do not say, "Today I am going to shrink my voice, ignore my convictions, and manage everyone's feelings so nobody gets upset with me." It usually happens slowly, quietly, in small moments. Someone asks you to do something you do not have capacity for, and you say yes because you do not want to disappoint them. Someone says something that bothers you, and you laugh because you do not want to make it awkward. Someone crosses a line, and you tell yourself it is not a big deal because you do not want to seem difficult. Someone asks what you think, and you soften your answer so much that it is not really true anymore. At first, it feels like kindness. It feels like peace. It feels like emotional intelligence. It feels like you are being easy to get along with. But over time, something begins to happen. People may like you, but they may not know where you stand. They may enjoy your presence, but they may not trust your boundaries. They may feel comfortable around you, but they may not respect your yes or your no. Because respect requires truth. Being liked and being respected are not the same thing. Being liked often means people enjoy how you make them feel. Being respected means people trust who you are. Being liked can happen quickly. Respect is built slowly. Being liked may come from being agreeable. Respect comes from being grounded. Being liked often depends on the mood of the room. Respect depends on the character of the person. Now, of course, it is not wrong to want to be liked. Nobody wants to walk through life being disliked on purpose. There is nothing spiritual about being unnecessarily difficult. There is nothing holy about being rude, cold, harsh, or impossible to work with. The goal is not to become someone who says, "I do not care what anyone thinks," and then uses that as an excuse to be careless with people. We should care about people. We should be kind. We should be considerate. We should be gentle. We should care how our words land. The Bible calls us to love our neighbor, to speak with grace, to pursue peace where we can. So the problem is not wanting healthy relationships. The problem is when approval becomes your master, because whatever you need most will eventually control you. If you need to be liked more than you need to be truthful, you will eventually lie. Maybe not big dramatic lies, small ones. You will say yes when you mean no. You will say you are fine when you are not. You will agree when your conscience is uneasy. You will stay silent when truth is required. You will apologize just to end tension, even when you did nothing wrong. You will become a version of yourself that keeps everyone comfortable except you. And this is where people pleasing becomes dangerous. It does not look destructive at first. It looks polite. It looks helpful. It looks humble. It looks like being a good person. But underneath, it is often fear: fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being abandoned, fear that if people see what you really think, really feel, really believe, really need, they may not stay. So you become adjustable. You become whoever the room needs you to be. Around strong personalities, you disappear. Around critical people, you perform. Around needy people, you rescue. Around angry people, you become quiet. Around impressive people, you become insecure. And after a while, you are not living from identity. You are living from reaction. That is exhausting. Because if your goal is to be liked by everyone, you have accepted an impossible job. You cannot do it. You cannot keep every person comfortable. You cannot manage every reaction. You cannot prevent every misunderstanding. You cannot be honest and never disappoint anyone. At some point, truth will disappoint someone. At some point, a healthy boundary will frustrate someone. At some point, obedience to God will make you less convenient for people. This is why the Bible gives us such honest stories. Not stories about perfect people who always get it right. Stories about real people under pressure. People in rooms where the crowd wants one thing, conscience says another thing, and the cost of truth becomes visible. Think about Pontius Pilate. Pilate was the Roman governor who questioned Jesus before the crucifixion. Rome controlled the region, and Pilate had political authority. He was not a disciple of Jesus. He was not trying to follow God with a humble heart. He was a man in power trying to manage a difficult situation. Jesus is brought before him by religious leaders who want Jesus executed. They accuse Jesus of being a threat. Pilate questions him. And as the story unfolds, Pilate seems to understand that Jesus is not guilty in the way his accusers claim. Pilate sees that something is wrong. He sees that the crowd is being stirred up. He sees that the charges are not clean. He sees that Jesus is not behaving like a dangerous rebel. But Pilate also sees the crowd, and the crowd is loud. The crowd is emotional. The crowd is demanding crucifixion. Now Pilate is in a difficult place. He can do what is right and risk unrest, anger, and political consequences. Or he can satisfy the crowd and protect himself. So what does he do? He washes his hands in front of the people as if he can symbolically remove responsibility from himself. But then he hands Jesus over. That is the terrifying thing. Pilate tries to appear innocent while still making the cowardly choice. He wants the appearance of clean hands without the courage of a clean decision. And that is what approval does to a person. It teaches you how to look innocent while participating in what is false. Pilate does not personally scream for Jesus' death. He does not look like the most emotional person in the room. He looks controlled, political, reasonable, practical. But he still gives the crowd what it wants. And history does not remember Pilate as wise. It remembers him as weak. That is the point. When you trade truth for approval, you may keep the room calm for a moment, but you lose something deeper. You lose moral weight. You lose trust. You lose the respect that comes from doing what is right when it costs you. And this happens in ordinary life too. A boss knows something unfair is happening but says nothing because the powerful person in the room might be upset. A parent knows a child needs a boundary but keeps giving in because they cannot tolerate being disliked. A friend hears gossip but laughs along because they do not want to seem too serious. A person in a relationship knows the truth needs to be spoken but avoids it because peace feels easier than repair. A leader senses the right thing but chooses the popular thing. And maybe everyone likes them for a while. But deep down, people know. People may not always say it, but they can sense when someone is governed by the crowd. They can sense when your convictions are negotiable. They can sense when your yes is not really yes. They can sense when your no can be changed with enough pressure. That is why the need to be liked can keep you from being respected. Because respect is not built by making everyone happy. Respect is built by becoming trustworthy, and trust requires truth. Now think about Peter. Peter was one of Jesus' closest disciples. He was passionate, bold, outspoken, and deeply devoted. He was the kind of person who spoke quickly and felt strongly. Before Jesus is arrested, Peter says he will never deny him. He insists that even if everyone else falls away, he will not. Peter means it. That is important. Peter is not lying when he says it. He loves Jesus. He believes he is loyal. He thinks his commitment is stronger than it is. But then pressure comes. Jesus is arrested. The situation becomes dangerous. Peter follows at a distance. He ends up near a courtyard, close enough to see some of what is happening, but not close enough to stand openly with Jesus. Then people begin to recognize him. They say, "Weren't you with Jesus?" And Peter says no. Again, someone asks. Again, Peter denies it. A third time, someone says he must be one of them, and Peter denies Jesus again. Then the rooster crows, just as Jesus said it would. Peter realizes what he has done. He breaks down. Now, why did Peter deny Jesus? Because in that moment, being associated with truth had a cost. Peter wanted safety. He wanted acceptance. He wanted not to be exposed. He wanted the people around him to stop looking at him. And this is where Peter becomes painfully relatable, because many of us have done some version of this. Maybe not denying Jesus in a courtyard, but denying what we know is true because the room made it costly. You know someone is being treated unfairly, but you stay silent because you do not want to become the next target. You know your faith matters to you, but you hide it because you do not want people to think you are strange. You know a joke is cruel, but you laugh because everyone else is laughing. You know a boundary is needed, but you soften it because someone might be upset. You know what you believe, but when the group turns against it, suddenly your voice disappears. That is Peter's courtyard, and all of us have one. The courtyard is the place where truth becomes socially expensive. It is the place where you discover whether your conviction can survive pressure. It is the place where you find out whether you are rooted or just enthusiastic. Peter teaches us something important. Strong feelings are not the same as formed character. Peter felt loyal, but he had not yet become the kind of person who could stand under that pressure. And that is not said to condemn him, it is said to understand him. Because later, after the resurrection, Jesus restores Peter. Jesus does not discard him. He does not humiliate him. He asks Peter if he loves him and then gives him work to do. Peter's failure is real, but it is not final. That is grace. But Peter still had to face the truth. His fear of people revealed something that needed to be formed. And that is true for us. When you notice your need to be liked controlling you, do not just shame yourself. Pay attention. That fear is showing you where God wants to make you more grounded. Now contrast Pilate and Peter with Jesus. Jesus is the most loving person who ever lived, but he was not a people pleaser. That is important. Jesus loved people deeply. He healed the sick. He welcomed children. He touched lepers. He ate with tax collectors and sinners. He wept with the grieving. He forgave his enemies. His compassion was not theoretical. It was embodied, costly, and real. But Jesus was not controlled by approval. Crowds loved him one day and left him the next. Religious leaders criticized him. His own family misunderstood him at times. His disciples tried to redirect him. People wanted miracles. People wanted explanations. People wanted him to fit their expectations. But Jesus remained rooted in the Father. There is a moment in John's Gospel where Jesus says, "I do not receive glory from people." That is an astonishing sentence. He is not saying people do not matter. He is saying people are not the source of his identity. Their applause does not define him. Their rejection does not destroy him. Their misunderstanding does not move him away from his mission. That is freedom. Jesus could love people without needing them to approve of him. He could serve people without becoming their possession. He could disappoint people without becoming cruel. He could speak truth without needing to be liked afterward. That is not emotional coldness. That is spiritual rootedness. A people pleaser cannot love like Jesus because a people pleaser is always negotiating. They are always asking, will this make you upset? Will this make you leave? Will this make you think badly of me? Will this cost me approval? But Jesus loves from truth. He does not manipulate people into staying, and he does not change truth to prevent them from leaving. Think about the rich young ruler. A wealthy young man comes to Jesus and asks what he must do to inherit eternal life. He is sincere. He is morally serious. He has kept many commandments. The gospel says Jesus looked at him and loved him. That matters. Jesus loved him before he challenged him. Then Jesus tells him to sell what he has, give to the poor, and follow him. Jesus is not being random. He sees the man's heart. He sees that wealth is not just something the man owns. It owns him. It is the thing he cannot release. The young man walks away sorrowful, and Jesus lets him walk away. That is hard for us. Jesus does not chase him down and soften the message. He does not say, wait, let me make this easier so you still like me. He does not adjust the truth to keep the relationship comfortable. He loves him, tells him the truth, invites him into life, and allows him to choose. That is mature love. Some of us think love means making sure nobody ever walks away upset. But Jesus shows us that love tells the truth and releases control. Love can grieve someone's response without surrendering truth to manage it. Now let's bring this into everyday life. A person who needs to be liked will often confuse kindness with compliance. Kindness means I treat you with dignity. Compliance means I do whatever keeps you pleased with me. Those are not the same thing. You can be kind and still say no. You can be gentle and still disagree. You can be loving and still set a boundary. You can care about someone's feelings without making their feelings your master. This matters because many relationships become unhealthy, not because someone lacks love, but because someone lacks honesty. You keep saying yes, but you resent it. You keep saying it is fine, but it is not fine. You keep acting easygoing, but inside you are keeping score. You keep avoiding the truth because you do not want conflict, but now the relationship is full of hidden conflict. People pleasing does not remove conflict, it buries it. And buried conflict does not die, it grows underground. Eventually, it comes out as resentment, distance, sarcasm, passive aggression, burnout, or sudden explosions that confuse everyone because you had been saying, it's okay, for months. This is why Jesus says in another place, let what you say be simply yes or no. That is very practical. Jesus is calling people into truthful speech. A yes that is yes, a no that is no. A life where words are not used to manage appearances, but to express reality. That kind of simplicity is powerful. Imagine becoming a person whose yes is honest and whose no is honest. Imagine not needing to over-explain every boundary. Imagine not needing to make everyone comfortable before you obey God. Imagine being able to disappoint someone without panicking. Imagine being able to say, I cannot do that, and not writing a courtroom defense afterward. That is not rudeness. That is maturity. Now, we should be careful here. Some people hear a message like this and use it as permission to become harsh. They say, I'm just being honest, but really they are being careless. That is not what we are talking about. Biblical truth is not cruelty. Jesus was full of grace and truth, not truth without grace, not grace without truth, both. So the goal is not to become less loving. The goal is to become more truthful in your love, more grounded, more clear, more honest, more rooted in God than in the shifting moods of people. The Apostle Paul asks a piercing question in Galatians. He says, for am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? That question cuts through so much confusion. Who am I trying to please right now? Am I making this decision because it is right or because I want to be liked? Am I staying silent because it is wise or because I am afraid? Am I saying yes because I am called to this or because I cannot tolerate someone's disappointment? Am I apologizing because I was wrong or because tension makes me panic? Am I changing my words because I am being gracious or because I am hiding? Those questions matter because the need for approval often feels like love, but it is not always love. Sometimes it is fear, and fear cannot produce the kind of relationships we actually want. Relationships built on people-pleasing are fragile because they depend on performance. You perform being agreeable. They perform being pleased. But nobody is fully known. Nobody is fully honest. The relationship may be pleasant, but it is not strong. Respect grows when truth is present. People may not always like your boundary, but over time, healthy people respect clarity. They respect consistency. They respect someone who does not manipulate, collapse, or pretend. They respect someone whose kindness has a spine. And yes, some people will not respect your growth. Some people liked you better when you were easier to pressure. Some people will call your boundary selfish because they benefited from you having none. Some people will say, you've changed, when what they mean is, you are no longer as controllable as you used to be. That can hurt, but it can also be a sign of growth. So how do we begin? First, notice where your body panics at the thought of someone being disappointed in you. That is usually a clue. Maybe it is with a parent, a spouse, a boss, a friend, a church leader, a client, someone whose mood seems to control your nervous system. Pay attention to that, not with shame, with curiosity. Ask, why does their disappointment feel so dangerous to me? Second, practice honest, small no's. You do not have to start with a dramatic confrontation. Start with clarity. I cannot make it. That does not work for me. I need more time. I am not available for that. I do not see it the same way. Small, honest no's train the soul to stop worshiping approval. Third, stop over-explaining to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Explanation is good when someone is genuinely seeking clarity, but over-explaining often comes from fear. You keep talking because you want to control how they see you, but you cannot control that. Say what is true. Say it kindly. Say enough, then release the outcome. Fourth, ask whether your yes is clean. A clean yes is a yes you can give without resentment. It is a yes that comes from love, wisdom, and capacity. An unclean yes is a yes given from fear. It may look generous in the moment, but it becomes bitterness later. Before you say yes, pause and ask, can I give this freely? Fifth, return to God as the source of your identity. This is the deepest part. You cannot defeat people pleasing only with better communication skills. You need a deeper identity. You need to know that before anyone likes you, approves of you, invites you, understands you, praises you, or respects you, you are seen by God, loved by God, called by God, held by God. When that becomes real, people's opinions still matter, but they stop becoming ultimate. Criticism may still hurt, but it will not define you. Disappointment may still be uncomfortable, but it will not enslave you. You can love people without needing them to be your source. And this is where respect begins. Not with trying to look strong, not with becoming hard, not with pretending you do not care. Respect begins when you become truthful, when your yes means yes, when your no means no, when you stop trading conviction for approval, when you stop making decisions from fear, when you become grounded enough to be kind without being controlled. So maybe the question today is simple. Where are you still trying to be liked at the cost of being truthful? Where have you confused peace with approval? Where have you said yes so often that your soul no longer trusts your own words? Where are you afraid that if people see the real you, they may not stay? Bring that to God honestly, not dramatically, honestly. Say, Lord, I want to be loved. I want to be liked. I want people to approve of me. But I do not want approval to become my master. Teach me to love people without being ruled by them. Teach me to speak truth without cruelty. Teach me to be kind without disappearing. Teach me to fear you more than I fear the room. Because the goal is not to be disliked. The goal is to be free. Free to love, free to tell the truth, free to disappoint people when obedience requires it. Free to set boundaries without panic. Free to be misunderstood without falling apart. Free to be respected, not because you demanded respect, but because you became a person of integrity. Your need to be liked may get you temporary approval, but truth is what builds respect. And the person God is forming in you does not need to be controlled by every reaction, every mood, every opinion, and every disappointed face. You can be kind and grounded, gentle and strong, loving and truthful, humble and clear. You can stop living as a reflection of the room. You can become rooted in the Father. And when that happens, you may not always be liked by everyone, but you will become someone people can trust. And more importantly, you will become someone who is no longer losing yourself to be accepted by people God never asked you to obey.